Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So Ryan Rowe was in 4th grade, and in 4th grade had his elementary school, bless you. In his elementary school, you were allowed to pick up one instrument, and play it with the band. And so, I hear it too. Is that me? Okay. I'm getting to be like a sound person like Jack. So he chose to play the trombone. And he chose the trombone because there was a cute little girl named Jessica who played the saxophone, and he knew if he played the trombone, he knew those two played together, so he could be with her. That was one important reason. And the second reason was his dad was a trombone player, an excellent, he said, phenomenal trombone player who played with the Marine Corps band based in New Orleans. So he was traveling all over with the Marine Corps band playing the trombone and also playing in the wonderful musical establishments in New Orleans, that beautiful trombone. So he picks up the trombone and he's learning it and he's spending a lot of time at it, and he's just discovering he's really bad at it. But he keeps doing it and he joins the band. There's only one other trombone player. She's in 5th grade, and it turns out she's as bad as he is. And so eventually she drops out, so that leaves just him next to Jessica, the saxophone player. And so his father and mother go in for a parent-teacher conference, and they talk to the music teacher, and he lets the music teacher know, oh yeah, well I played the trombone, and she said, you did? We would love to have you join us in playing the trombone. He says, no, I don't want to outshadow the kids. No, that's not appropriate. And she said, no, we would really like to have you play. So he says yes, and his son is just not sure how he feels about this, because the thing he's definitely trying to do in his 4th grade life is not to draw attention to himself. And he said the thing he knows is going to draw attention to himself is sitting next to an adult male at the elementary school band concert. And he does. He says, I'm sitting next to Jessica on one side and his dad on the other. And he could see everybody coming in and squinching their eyes, wondering why his dad's there. And so they start playing, and he said, we're trying to out-quiet each other. I'm trying to be real quiet so nobody can hear me, and his dad's trying to be real quiet, not to drown anyone out. He said, but eventually we got the rhythm going. And by 2/3 of the way, we really found our groove of how to play together. And he said, I really started enjoying sitting next to my dad and playing the trombone. And the last song was It's a Wonderful World. And they play A Wonderful World with the band, and it's a wonderful success. So they have a hard time getting trombone players, though, so his dad ends up playing with the school band for the next 5 years. He's sitting next to his dad and playing the trombone, that Lean on Me. And as he grows, though, and goes into high school, there's trombone players, so his dad pulls out. And then he leaves, because it's just not the same, not having his dad with him. Fast forward many years, he's visiting New Orleans as an adult, and he's just walking around. He's trying to walk around the city as his dad walks around. His dad's alive, but he was there by himself, and he was just trying to experience what it must have felt like to be his dad, living in the city. And he goes to a place called Preservation Hall. Is that it, Jack? Yeah. Preservation Hall. And they have this great jazz band, and they're playing. And they said they just sit me right next to the trombone player, to the trombone section. He goes, I don't know what they knew, but I'm just sitting there listening to it all and loving it. And the concert's over, the gig's over, but someone from the back comes up and pays one of the musicians to play his song. And it's such a wonderful world. And he said he's just sitting there listening, and as he's hearing this song, it takes him right back to being in 4th grade, sitting next to his dad. And he's just overwhelmed with love and gratitude for this experience that he got to share with his dad, this musical, artistic experience. What was also beautiful was that he brought his mom and dad to the talk where he was sharing this story, and they didn't know he was going to tell that story. So after he tells the story, they're in the back crying and hugging, and then the audience finds out, oh, that's the dad, and the dad gets all this attention. So it just continues the joy of it. But there's 2 things that strike me about it. Well, we're just going to let Jack do that sound, okay? The 2 things that strike me about it is the timelessness of art. Do you need me to switch? Okay, well, you'll let me know. The timelessness of art, that when we connect with yes, you do want me to switch. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Sorry. It's going to hang, sorry. That when we connect with art, what makes it so soulful is it is timeless. That just as he was right back in fourth grade, our soul, when it expresses itself, enters into the timeless. And there's something so powerful about that. And the other beautiful thing, as we've been talking about what we learned from our fathers, is that we think of men aren't, the masculine isn't just aggressive, straightforward. You know, I've talked a lot about my dad learning how to think and all this, but the soulfulness, that beautiful artistic soul, has been coming through the masculine for generations. There's a line in the Gospel according to Thomas when they say, how do we enter the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says, it's when the two shall be one, when there is no male and there is no female. When we stop, or you could say it's all male, all female, where we stop having this separation. And so for me, even in these last 2 months, it's been a little challenging because it's felt, I did it this time, I won't do it again, but because it can be interesting, but it's so separating. But the beautiful thing about the soul is it doesn't separate. That this beautiful soulfulness is in all of us, carrying itself into form from this timeless and eternal place. And so through my father, though I talk a lot about him being a lawyer and teaching me to think and etc., be autonomous, be an agent, have agency, he also had this incredible soul that he loved gardening, he loved musicals, he loved poetry, he loved reading, he loved art, he did art and loved art, he played the piano, he loved music, all of it. And so much of when I feel my connection with my father, it's through that soulfulness. I know he loves history, I know he loves politics. I don't know, maybe my brothers really feel a soulfulness in that. I don't feel much soulfulness in that. But he also did all of our photo albums, which I never thought about till people started commenting, because he did a photo album for all four of us, each at the beginning with our ancestry on both sides of the family, and then each album was tailored to each of the four kids. He also took all our family films and spliced them, because it was the old projector time, so we would have all these family movies. I mean, he just cared so deeply. And you could feel it pouring through all these beautiful artistic expressions. And so I remember it was very significant because I was just moving in my teen years. I was in 8th grade, middle school. And up until then, he'd always given me all the same books that he had given my brothers, a lot of historical fiction, and of course, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, Treasure Island, Portobello Gold, all these treasures that he loved. And I read all of them, and I liked them. And then come middle school, he said, you might like some books by women authors. And so he gave me The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And it was, as I'm reading them, something in me just like, wow. Like I found a piece of myself that I never found in those other books, this soulfulness. And he never asked my brothers to read those books, but he had read all of them, and he read Little Women and Little Men. I mean, there's nothing he didn't read, but I could have conversations with him about it, and he understood. He knew me well enough to say, I think you're going to really like this Jane Eyre book, and I did. And Diary of Anne Frank, I started to try to write my own journal at the time because she inspired me. Like maybe many of you had that experience reading her book, Diary of a Young Girl. And so at the time it was 1979, and there were American hostages in Iran, and I was writing all about it. Well, we watched the news every night, so it was easy for me to follow what was going on, but I was giving my thoughts. It's amazing. I still have it. Like all my thoughts, I'm like, wow, I really thought a lot about this. And I thought of that. It's so interesting as I'm thinking about that time in my life, and I was hearing what's happened last night, that's the biggest military effort towards Iran since 1979. It's that timelessness of the soul. It connects us with something that we can't even understand. But it's beautiful and challenging, because the other thing, I was trying to think about what it was about these books and about artistic soul that really moves me. And what I found that really moves me is when it's addressing some sort of suffering. That when I'm reading books that are just about happy people, or it's just, I'm not talking about her movies, but movies that were made of her, but like I really disliked, I did a paper as a junior in high school on Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, and I really didn't like it because it was just about women trying to get a guy, and I just bored me. I'm like, the movie was good. Emma Thompson did a great job. But the book itself, I never read more Jane Austen because it lacked a depth. That in fact, suffering takes us into realms that when we just have a happy life, we're missing. I think of Shunryu Suzuki, who talks about there's always two sides of the coin, and if you only talk about the positive, you know there's another side, you're just not talking about it. And conversely, if you're only talking about the negative and you're not acknowledging the positive. And art has this beautiful, incredible way of being able to do both sides of the coin. That you can experience and open into suffering, but at the same time not be overwhelmed by it, feel the beauty behind it. To me, it's a miracle that art does. That I can feel so much love, so my heart opening, not shutting down in fear and, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible, but my heart opening up in the midst of something that's so challenging and trying. I mean, Diary of Anne Frank, Uncle Tom's Cabin's a little problematic in these days, but at the time, it was addressing things growing up in a community that had so many black people, it was really helpful to me. One of the things Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote as a northern white woman was, people are not understanding how horrible slavery is if they think that when it ends, it ends. She said that what has been done to the black people is causing a rage that's going to last for generations upon generations. You cannot treat people like this and not have consequences. And I just thought, I remember reading that. That's the only thing I remember in the whole book, because it just really struck me like, she really saw that. Artists see with the heart. Artists see with the heart. They might have the incredible intellect to be able to form it into words or to create a craft of art, of music, of all these things. But until that art reaches the heart, the soul that can feel into what is being expressed, that's where we all connect. It doesn't matter what time of period you live in, what culture you're living in, you can connect and you can see one another heart to heart. So as we're in these challenging times, the thing I would like to invite us to remember is that art is not superfluous. It's not extra. That in fact, art is the most powerful healing agent we have. And whatever that, and it doesn't have to be brilliant art, you can just be art to yourself. It can be just this, Jack found an old video that Julian made when he was 10 years old. He was doing a tour of his room. It starts off with, "This is a wall." That begins his tour. But it was really fun to read it. But he wasn't even talking about it, but as his camera's going around showing all these things, I see these little pieces of artwork around, because every year at Christmas, I got this from my mom, I would gather the different artwork that he did both at school and at church at the holiday season, and I would put it up around the house. And then I would save it, and then I'd put it up the next year. So it was always these and we still do it. So I have his childhood pictures around the house. So as he's giving a tour, I'm seeing all these pictures. I'm like, oh, I knew exactly when he was doing it because of the pictures that were up, and it still just brings up this emotion, like this timelessness. I was in meditation yesterday, and I just had the most extraordinary meditation. I was in my mom's home, and I was meditating there, and all these experiences, and I just felt all of them, good, bad. It wasn't about happy, happy, joy, joy, and it wasn't misery, misery. It was just life, and I felt all of it and the beauty of it, and I was just in love. I was just in love with life, and like, wow, every minute of every day we are living this extraordinary work of art. Every day we are living an extraordinary work of art. When we connect, but it's hard to see it unless we're connected with our heart and accepting all of it and seeing the beauty in all of it. When we chop things up, it's a little more challenging. So I invite you to embrace your artistic self, your artistic soul, not just today and what you're doing, but things that you've done in the past, poems that you've written, little pieces of work of art that you go, oh, that's rubbish. I mean, I have up on our refrigerator, Peggy Berger did something with our group, and I'm a terrible drawer. I don't care. I have it up on our refrigerator, and it's been up there for years. It's not coming down. Because I love it. It's not about it's good. It's just, it was from my soul when I did it. And when I look at it, I remember that little piece of my soul that I put into that piece of artwork. Music. I mean, my mother, she always had this one perfume that Malgrif, that she never wore perfume except when she was going to a meeting. So we all knew when my mom had a meeting because that perfume would be around. And then it was discontinued for decades, so I haven't smelled it in decades. And then I just saw they redid it. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get it. So I bought it, and I was so afraid I wouldn't remember her. And as soon as I sprayed it, I'm like, oh, my mom's in the house. This is the art. That in fact, our five senses are not something that we have to shut down to know God, but in fact, our five senses, when we are open to the divine presence, are the most extraordinary expressions of the divine presence as each and every individual in our life. When my dad had dementia, we went up to his study, and I was, bless you, and as I was taking care of him that weekend, and he started going through papers, and he started pulling out things I'd never seen, journals that he started trying to write when he was in six years old and 8 years old. And it was so sweet, but it was just so my dad. He loved family, he loved all these papers, and it was suddenly in a moment. I wrote about it in my journal because it was like we met, our souls met. There was no dementia where we met. And it was the most glorious. I'm like, this is Pete, this is Mom, and this is Dad and Harriet. This is how we are. This is where our souls meet, going through old things that he did, and we're sharing that together. It's that sharing process. We do it together, and we do it when we share it with anybody, whether we're doing the art with somebody or we're just doing it our own and we share it. It's so profound, and it's so wordless, which is why art is so important, because I can never find words to express what I even can begin to feel. It doesn't even close, but art is the closest. And so we need it in our life, and we need it in our life when times are the scariest and when they're the most frightening. Going back to our beautiful Anne Frank and how much she opens our heart in the midst of such horrible times. It's always necessary. It is always necessary. Embrace your artistic self. We are all creative beings. We are all artistics. Art is such a powerful tool for healing. So I'd like to bring this very artistically short talk with a story that I heard that really moved me, and it just seems so relevant to today of how art can be so powerful in healing us. This is with Jamal Joseph, and he was a Black Panther. And at 16, he'd been picked up for something, so he went to Rikers Island for that for a year. And I think just for participating in the Black Panthers, I can't quite remember. And then years later, he was arrested because he had been, after the fact, for being an accessory after the fact, he was hiding some of his friends who were running from the FBI. And for that, he was put into Fort Leavenworth prison, which is considered the big top, the scariest of all the different prisons, and he was there for 12 and a half years. No, he got a sentence for 12 and a half years. He ended up only being there for 9 years. And so he goes, and he's sort of taking in the environment when he first gets there, and he says there's a solid 3 groups that exist, and he says they hold court. They have these different courts. And he said there's the black group, the guerrillas, the fighters, and then there's the Mexican mafia, and then there's the white Aryan supremacists, and they all very tough. I mean, this is Leavenworth, and these are serious crimes that many of these people, he said most of them were in for close to a lifetime, 50 years, 20 to 50 years to a lifetime, so they didn't have a lot to lose a lot of times. So he's there, and this, from the group, the black group of which he was in, I think he called him Mr. Cody, but he sort of definitely held court, and he came over and he said, so I heard you were in the Panthers group when you were out. He said, yeah. He said, and I heard that you did karate. He's like, how does he know all this? Yeah, I did karate. He goes, and you did plays? They said, yeah, I did plays. He goes, okay. And he walks away. It's like, Sam, what was that? And a couple days later, he comes back, and he says he comes back with these 2 monster of guys. And he said they're not tattooed with tattoos. They're tattooed with gunshot wounds and stab wounds all over them. These guys have been through it, and they are, he says, I'm looking up to both of them because they're that big, and their names are Death Struck. Death and Struck. So he comes over to him with these two guys next to him, and he says, okay, well, what I think is important is that you do a play. So you're going to have to do a play for us. Black History Month is coming up in 2 months. You have 8 weeks. Do a play. He's like, I've never done it. Okay, so he went to the library. They only had 1 play for black. They only had 2 plays, Romeo and Juliet and Raisin in the Sun. Raisin in the Sun is a great, wonderful play, but he said, there's women, I can't do that. So he wrote his first play. And so he gets Death and Struck as his first actors, and he's teaching them, and he's like, well, they clearly could not do acting, so I was trying to do improv with them, and so I had them like do a scene from the prison, and like, I'm gonna kill you, and they got so into it, I had to stop them, and I said, okay, that's dialogue, I really believed you, good job, and they're like, no, I'm not doing dialogue, I'm gonna kill them. They got so into it. I said, no, we gotta, so let's go back to our breathing exercise. Okay, now put your hands up, remember we were doing this, and then you're gonna be a tree, you're gonna feel like being a tree. So they're putting their hands up. In the meantime, 2 Mexican guys, he said the toughest, they had the biggest reputation because before they even, not even counting the people that they killed outside of the prison, since they'd been in Leavenworth, they had killed 8 people. And so they're just sitting there, and there was no interaction between these groups. And they're sitting there, and finally Tito gets up and calls over Jamal and says, those guys, those 2 stinking guys, they're not feeling it. And he was so struck. Turns out this guy, while he was gangbanging, he was also in the Shakes doing Shakespeare plays in high school. And he got really into the thing. So he joined the play. So he said, okay, so it's not just for Black history, we're going to do Black and Brown. So he went back and started rewriting the play, and the 2 guys came and joined the play. And then the white group was like, uh-oh, the blacks and the Mexicans are hooking up. We better figure out what's going on. This could be dangerous for us. So they send their toughest guy, Rev, from Alabama, and he comes, and he goes, and he's like, what's going on with you guys? And they're like, we're doing a play. So he goes back to his group, and they're like, what's going on? And he goes, well, they're doing a play. And they go, well, what'd you do about it? He goes, well, they gave me a part. So now we got all 3 groups in the play, and then he goes, and then we're doing, it's just 8 weeks we have to do it. And then as we're working through it, there's, when you're in prison, you've got time, so there's people who've taken up instruments, trombone and sax, and they're like, well, why aren't we in your play? And so the next thing I know, we have a band. And then, all these people who are painting and artists, I have a set designer. And so in this 8-week period, he's written this play. He's never written a play before. Most of the people in the play had never acted before. Then you have set designer and music, and they create this play. He said, but that's not even the worst part. The worst part is the audience. He said, prison
members are notoriously horrible audiences. He said, we just a month ago had a church choir in here who had to stop the choir short because they were so rude. And the pastor said, you are like not loving Jesus. We're out of here. So they're like, we have to do this play in front of, we're all not knowing what we're doing, and we have to do it in front of 1,500 prisoners. So they bring the prisoners in, and he says, and it starts off, like they start doing the play, and it's like, yeah, you still owe me money. Like, he said, but it was amazing. About 10 minutes in, they stopped yelling those things, and they started yelling different things. Don't do it! Don't tell her! And they were so into the play. And they got so into the play, and so when it was over, they gave him, 1,500 people stood up and gave him a standing ovation. And the next day, one of the actors said to him, they had to tear it down right away, and the actor said, well, when are we going to do our next play? He says, there is no next play. I haven't written one. He goes, well, go write one. So over the next 9 years, he created this theater company here, and they kept doing plays. The most remarkable thing is, in that 9 years, violent crime went down 75% at that prison while they were doing these plays. He said because men were seeing into each other's eyes and seeing this common ground, and that need for violence just sort of dissolved. 75%, the power of art. Let us not dismiss that art isn't some little side thing that we do when we have extra time. It is the most important expression of our soul. It's the most important expression of our timeless beingness. It's the way God shows up. It's through our artistic self, and it doesn't have to be brilliant. It doesn't have to be professional. It just has to be participating with one another in the songs that we sing, in the prayers, in the bead necklaces that people make, in the pictures that we draw, in the poetry. All of it is so essential to our souls. It heals us, and as a country who's going through a lot right now, art is more important than ever because it's so healing, because it comes from the timeless place. It comes from a place that is untouched by the suffering that's happening. It feels the suffering. It can go into the depths of the suffering, but it's not lost in the suffering. It's free. What an extraordinary combination to be free from all the suffering, from all the fear, and at the same time feeling all the fear and feeling the suffering, as well as the joy, because there becomes this extraordinary, exquisite beauty that art creates within us. And it doesn't demand life to be perfect, but actually creates that perfection. Art is what creates the ability to see with our heart and feel with our heart. As a little interesting side note, this Jamal Joseph, also while in his 9 years at prison, he also got 2 degrees. When he left, he started teaching film at Columbia University and did that for 25 years, and he's been nominated for an Oscar, a Grammy, and an Emmy. So that creativity kept coming in, not because he went to school to learn how to do it, not because he was trained, but because he was listening to something so profound in our souls. It's always there. You don't need anyone to help you. It's a direct contact. There's no intermediary. It's you and that presence. So as we conclude this beautiful experience, when we talked about mother and father, we arrive back to this place of there's no separation. When we're in the soul, the masculine and the feminine, the artistic soul, the happy and the sad, the good and the bad, it's all there. So if you're feeling fear about what's happening or anger, find a way to express that artistically. And it could be through cooking, it could be through taste, it could be through dance. There's no limitation of how your soul can express, but let it be expressed. Don't hold it in. And find that as you're expressing it, open your heart to the timelessness of it. Let your heart feel the timelessness of your soul expression. The gentle artist. We are needed more than ever before. Let's embrace it, yeah? And share it with one another. All right, let's pray. What an extraordinary thing to know that Spirit has no fear right now. None. It's not biting its nails. It's not curled up in a corner in anxiety. That divine presence knows that it knows that it knows that all is well, not because it's becoming well, it already is. This presence, this power of light, of love, of beauty, of harmony, it already is. We as human beings are not creating it. We are playing inside of it. This presence and this power that is unlimited life, unlimited love, unlimited joy, that is what we are playing in today and for every day for all eternity. We can never leave this extraordinary light in which we are immersed. This light that teaches us what love is, what it is to be loved every moment of every day. We are never judged. We are always held in the arms of grace and of joy and of freedom and of peace. This is who we are. This is extraordinary. And to open into that light and open up to that ever-present power and know that it is the one power of our life. And then we open these beautiful human expressions, of taste, of touch, of sight, of sound, of smell. These beautiful, beautiful five senses that we've been gifted with. This wonderful intuitive ability to express ourselves in so many unique and varied ways. Each and every one of us God's masterpiece, each and every one of us God's gentle artist. We bring that tender gentleness to whatever emotion or experience we are having, and we allow the divine light to pour through these senses into exactly what we're feeling. If we are feeling fear, or if we are feeling disconnected, if we are feeling anger, if we are feeling powerless, or we are feeling empty, or if we're feeling delighted and in love and in grace, whatever the human experience and emotion, spirit can express it all through and as every single one of us. And it is through this expression of the divine moving through every one of us that we continue to be a healing light and a healing power, not just in the transcendent, but right here in the immanent, not by turning away from what we're feeling, but by going within it and seeing that even within it is the beauty and the harmony and the peace and the joy in the midst of whatever is going on, and something exquisite beyond words is expressed, is experienced. And when one person experiences and shares it, we all experience it. We all have these moments of incredible grace, connection, and freedom when we open to that divine presence through our beautiful artistic souls. Thank you, Divine Presence, for your mastery at the artistic expression as this beautiful life in which we are leading. Thank you for opening our hearts and our bodies and our minds and our souls to have courage, to not shut down, but to open even more to your light and to your love in the midst of all the things that are happening that feel dark and scary in this earth here and now. And in all of this, we give a special blessing for what is happening, for acts that seem like acts of war, that seem violent and terrifying, that feel like can lead down a very dark road. We don't turn away from that. But we also know that is not the power of the universe. The power of the universe is behind that. And that's where we go. we go to the true power, and we can experience that in every moment of every day. No one can take that from us ever. And it is from there we find this exquisite beauty beyond human understanding. For the artist who expresses that for us in all of us, I just say thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this incredible medium to heal all of our souls as we traverse the journey of being a human being. In divine gratitude and infinite love, I let this word be now. Just as it is. Just as it is. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
I walk in God in all